Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into this, because today we're looking at a pretty profound psychological paradigm shift. Did you know the human brain can process a social cue, like say a super subtle change in a facial expression, in as little as 33 milliseconds? To put that into perspective, that is literally faster than the blink of an eye. If you've ever felt like your brain is just working in overdrive, constantly picking up on tiny social details that no one else seems to catch, well, you are in the exact right place. We're going to explore something deeply personal for a lot of us. It's a survival skill that quite literally never turned off.
Moving into Section 1, the art of observation. Let's talk about what it actually means to read the room. Think about your everyday experiences for just a second here. You walk into a room, maybe you sit down with a friend, or join a meeting at work. Some people, right, they just see the chairs, the coffee cups, the basic layout of the space. But others? They see an entire invisible web of information unfolding in real time. Do you instantly sense tone changes and facial shifts? I want you to really think about that in your own life. When someone says, "I'm fine," do you immediately catch that micro-millisecond where their smile doesn't quite reach their eyes? Do you register the absolute slightest dip in pitch when your partner or your boss says hello? Do you feel the energy of a room completely shift before anyone has even spoken a single word? Well, this brings us to a really crucial core truth. You aren't just observant. Society loves to label this as simply having a keen eye or being a people person or just having good intuition. Maybe friends compliment you on how perceptive you are, kind of treating it like a neat little party trick when you can accurately predict why a coworker is upset before they even sit down at their desk. But what we're unpacking today reveals a much, much deeper psychological mechanism at play. It's not just a personality quirk or some random coincidence.
Which brings us to Section 2, anxiety or survival skill. We really need to reframe this radar. Now, what's really interesting about this is how it contrasts those heavy, stigmatized labels we often carry around with the actual reality of the situation. Maybe you've been called out for your anxiety, or you've been told you're too sensitive, told to stop overthinking or to not take things so seriously. But if we completely reframe that, we realize this trait is actually a highly tuned radar for emotional danger. You aren't too anything. You're operating a highly sophisticated, brilliant emotional radar. It's a feature, not a bug, of your psychology, and it developed for a very specific reason.
Let's look at Section 3, Unpredictable Childhood Environments, and dive into where this all actually started.
To understand how this emotional radar system works, we absolutely have to look at where it originated. The clinical term for what we're discussing is hypervigilance, and it doesn't just come out of nowhere, right? It is born directly from unpredictable early environments. Think of your nervous system like this incredibly advanced weather prediction software. When the weather around you early on wasn't consistent, your brain had to adapt. This wasn't some conscious choice you made, it was a biological imperative. Your nervous system learned that safety and predictability just weren't guaranteed, so it decided it needed to forecast the emotional weather on its own to protect you.
So this highly tuned radar is entirely shaped by the past. In an unpredictable setting, reading the room wasn't just a quirky habit. It was literally your primary tactic to stay safe. You had to learn to read the room intuitively. And why? Because keeping yourself safe absolutely depended on it. Was a storm brewing with a caregiver? Catching a super subtle facial shift early meant you could adjust your behavior, avoid a conflict, de-escalate the situation, and maintain that essential baseline of safety.
Moving on to Section 4, your emotional radar system in action. So how does this actually work for you today, long after those original childhood environments have passed? Well, the second you walk into a room, you automatically read it. You're scanning the environment instantly without even trying. Then, almost simultaneously, you notice the subtlest shifts, catching a tiny change in a facial expression or maybe a micro dip in someone's tone of voice. And then, before you even consciously process what's happening, your brain detects the emotional danger. All of this happens in just a fraction of a second. It's this incredibly powerful system designed entirely to protect you, and it's acting completely unconsciously.
That brings us to Section 5, Safe Now, Scanning Always.
So the crucial point is right here. It's a childhood survival skill that doesn't know you're safe now. Just let the weight of that sink in for a moment. You're sitting here today as an adult. You might be in a safe home with safe people living a genuinely safe life. But the deepest parts of your brain, they simply haven't updated their safety status. The software is still running the old survival code.
Because of that outdated code, the radar never turns off. It continues to scan relentlessly for danger. And honestly, it is completely exhausting. I mean, think about the physical and mental fatigue of receiving a simple two-word text message from a friend, something like, okay, or sure thing, and spending the next hour completely agonizing over the lack of an exclamation point. You end up analyzing every possible underlying tone of anger or disappointment. Or think about the pure exhaustion of leaving a totally normal workplace meeting and dissecting every brief silence or sideways glance from a coworker long after the original unpredictable environment has faded into the past. It's physically draining, isn't it? But remember, it is doing exactly what it was trained to do.
Which leads us to this final question. What if your anxiety is just a survival skill trying to protect a past version of you? The next time you find yourself instantly picking up on a negative tone or a subtle facial shift, just pause. Instead of criticizing yourself for being too sensitive, perhaps you can acknowledge that incredibly sharp, brilliantly adapted survival system. Thank it for trying to keep you safe. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Until next time,